I'm with the Department of Ed in the Division of Elementary and Secondary Ed, and I'm the Director of Special Projects. I just want to say welcome, and I want you to know I'm a little nervous today. It's not so much about talking, it's the part about the technology. So I'm going to give a big shout out and thank you to Evan Patrick for walking me off the ledge last night and this morning as I'm going through the technology aspect of it. I'm like, okay, I'm toggling between this screen and this screen. Please help. So thank you so much, Evan, for doing this and walking along beside of me and getting my back with that. So we're excited that you're here today. We hope that you're very excited about the playbook and the components. Our goal today is to help you become more familiar with the playbook and the components of the playbook. I want you to please feel free to ask any questions. The question and answer section is open. Sarah Stovall from Morrilton Intermediate will be answering those questions as we go along. And then we'll address whatever questions are not answered at the end. Just a little bit of history with the playbook. It started basically off of our vision that the State Department has of just leading the nation in student-focused learning, except we're starting with just leading Arkansas. So it's been an exciting initiative, adventure, traveling along with these educators, because when we stepped into this, obviously with the pandemic, we didn't know what we were stepping into or what was going on. So it's been quite a journey, but it's been a fun journey. Today's lineup, I'm not going to introduce the Statewide Guiding Coalition. You'll see several of them on here today. There are several who are not on here today, but I do want to say thank you to each of them for the work that they put into this. I have learned a lot through them, so thank you so much. I know it's required a lot of time, a lot of your volunteer time. The teacher teams that were involved in this, we're probably about 130 educators overall. So just kind of to give you a little bit of background of what happened or how this came into action, pretty much the day that we went to offsite instruction, Secretary Key, we already had the AMI work going for what's happening with learning and addressing learning when students were going to the blended model and at home. So then at that point, he was thinking, what happens when we come back in the fall? We need to go ahead and get something started, more to get into the hands of the educators before they release for the summer, so that just some planning. So it did come out a little bit before the logistics of everything, but that is the reason why, just to make sure that it got into the hands of the educators before summer started. I reached out. Well, basically what happened before is the PLC project schools, several practice and professional learning community schools had reached out to us saying, because we've gone through this training, we feel better equipped to handle the pandemic. We've identified our essential standards. We were ready to tackle learning and knew our students' needs, so that we really focused on the essential standards and we continued this learning path. And it was pretty much just a thank you. And Secretary Key said, why don't we use that in this group to say, hey, how can we address and help other educators across the state as we return to school in the fall? So that's where it started. Started in probably second week of April. I reached out to some, and then I just reached out to all of the PLC project schools and said, hey, if you want to help, please help. And these educators jumped on board, and not one complaint. It went fast. And then opened up a spreadsheet and said, if you have teachers that you can recommend, and that spreadsheet filled up quickly. And so the playbook was, and then April the 20th, the teachers started planning these units. By May 6th, they turned those units in. That's a quick turnaround. And it was very, very impressive of what they've done. So, and another shout out to Emily Carpenter for her work in getting it published from May 6th until it went out. I believe May 18th it went live. So we've got some corrections that we're making along the way for broken links. But pretty much the goal today is just for you to understand the playbook, the components, and just see the resources that are available to you. I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Stacks.
Good morning. I'm Michael Stacks, Assistant Superintendent and Co-Principal with the Quitman School District. We want to welcome you to today's webinar. It's an honor to be sharing with you today. First, I want to thank the department, Commissioner Key, Dr. Pfeffer, and Missy Wally for having the vision to form this coalition to lead Arkansas teachers in the creation of this playbook. This playbook includes resources with model plans to address address the unfinished learning upon re-entry. It's a result of a collaborative effort by Arkansas teachers, for Arkansas teachers, for Arkansas students. This session is being recorded, and the recording can be found on the department's website under P for Playbook. Grade level and content teams from across the state have spent the past weeks, as Missy spoke about, working as a professional learning community while also teaching their students during a pandemic to identify essential standards that students may not have had time to master or may not have even been taught during that fourth quarter. Rigorous instructional plans have been created around these essentials and include pre and post tests. Today, our coalition is excited to discuss the components of the playbook with you. Members will share specific information about its design and its purpose, details and templates for scheduling, including plans for blended instruction, the unit plans, activities, assessments, resources, and more are found here. Members of our team are proud to share our experience and how we and our teacher teams have worked as a professional learning community to create this playbook. It also addresses social and emotional learning, teacher self-care, trauma-informed practices, while also providing you with quality resources to support and engage your families. We hope that you find it to be a friendly resource, a user-friendly resource that helps you address the learning needs of all your students on your campuses. At this time, I'm going to pass the mic over to Miss Cassie Adams over in West Memphis, Arkansas. Cassie.
All right, good morning, guys. My name is Cassie Adams. I am the building principal at Bragg Elementary in West Memphis. I have the pleasure of serving on the statewide guiding coalition, and I also had the honor of coaching the 5th grade collaborative teacher team. A few things that came together when we put this team together. We wanted to make sure that we had a clear expectation and outcome for the work. So our expectation was just to recover and restart education for all students in Arkansas with the time that we lost in the classroom with face-to-face instruction. And so the outcome was to create a user-friendly playbook for educators all across the state to focus on learning for all students. So the purpose of the playbook is really to identify the unfinished learning. Of course, when we all separated a few months ago, we know there were still essential standards that did not have time to be addressed or mastered. And so we felt it was important just to be a resource and a collaborative team, just to provide just a platform for teachers to be able to look at something and say, oh, hey, that's the way we're rolling, or, oh, they had those same essential standards. That's where we were at, just to give a platform for collaboration to begin building what school looked like for this coming school year. The big thing is the flexibility with implementation. And this is just a resource, you guys. This playbook is a resource. You can take bits and pieces. You can pull just extensions, interventions. You can take a template. You might want to use a resource that a grade level use and say, that's a new resource for me to pull into my classroom. You might just want the social and emotional aspect of it. So again, the flexibility that you have around this document is truly a resource, and to pull pieces that fit you and your district. Again, remember to use the Q&A icon in the bottom to post any questions that you have. And a few things, the ADE Summit is next week, and it is free and virtual, so you can easily sign up. The important thing that we wanted to get out is that the units were planned for the upcoming school year. The 1st grade teacher team got together and planned that unit for beginning for 2nd grade. Since it was the unfinished learning at the end of the previous school year, the 5th grade team planned it for the 6th grade team, and so on. So as you sign up for those sessions, it's important to know which ones you're signing up for. So if you go to a 5th grade session, they're actually going to be showing you the opening for 6th grade for this school year. All those collaborative teacher teams will present next week, and you can just go on and sign up for their session and learn more about those individual units. So I'm going to turn things over to Julie Wallace to talk about scheduling.
Good morning. I'm Julie Wallace, the co-principal at Quitman School District. I'm going to talk to you today about master scheduling. Master scheduling is the skeleton to every school. In our session at the summit next week, we will use critical components of creating a master schedule to best fit the needs of the student and adult learners in your building. we have to dedicate time during the school day to provide students with additional help. All students must have access to grade level essential curriculum. In order for us to bridge the gap in unfinished learning, we must carve out instructional time to reteach and extend. Some students will need daily remediation on foundational skills. When planning, blocks of time for remediation and extension sessions should be no longer than 30 minutes. As you know, attention spans can often can create havoc if you spend more than 30 minutes. During the time of intervention, students should not be introduced to new grade level essential standards. This is a time for unfinished learning. When creating a master schedule, there are some key factors that you should consider. Does your schedule reflect your mission, vision, and beliefs of your school? Has your schedule been created using the best research-based practices? And what does your data say? Data doesn't lie. Does your schedule match the needs of your students and adult learners in your school? And when creating a master schedule, always consider the 4 questions as a fundamental piece. What do we want students to learn? How will we know that they've learned it? What will be our response if they don't learn it? And what will be our response if they already know it? Now we're going to look at a few schools who have begun to create blended schedules to prepare to return to school in the fall. I'm going to send it over to Sally Bennett in Rivercrest, Arkansas.
Good morning. I'm Sally Bennett, the superintendent of the Rivercrest School District, and we've begun the work of our blended instruction plan, just as all of you are looking at yours as well. Just wanted to share with you today some of the things that we're thinking about as we get ready to submit our plan for state approval. And we think that this resource playbook is going to be very valuable moving forward. We kind of broke our work into 2 different buckets, on-site instruction and off-site instruction. And our plan for the governor is we're going to return to school. And so we're going to be able to use this playbook in our focus in our intervention group time that we provide daily for each student, K through 12. They have that time built into their schedule. It's provided by certified and paraprofessionals, so we want to make sure that we are going to use that resource to help that unfinished learning gap be closed. We're looking at next year having digital days, and during that time, we're going to be using our digital resources while at school. We have found that as we transition to off-site instruction, it's a real challenge to try to figure out what are we supposed to do. And we think if we can provide some just-in-time training for that for both our students and our teachers to help them become more comfortable with those platforms, that should we have to transition fully to off-site instruction, those digital days will have paved the way for that. We plan to create our own digital instructional libraries around those essential standards and have teachers record their lessons so that we can begin to compile a resource that we can use that are teacher-created materials. We're asking all of our teachers to become, certified in Google Fundamental Level 1 so that they know the tools that are available that they might not have taken full advantage of throughout the school year. And we'll also be providing after-school study groups as part of our on-site instruction plan. So Rivercrest, we're a consolidated school district. We don't live in any of the 5 communities that we serve. We're out by the interstate, and internet access is a real problem for us, and I bet it is for many of you as well. And so we're actively pursuing things that we can do to increase that access for our families. We've done some of the very typical things that you all, I'm sure, have done. We've got hotspots that we're putting on buses. I've met with our community leaders, looking at city halls, trying to provide access. We've talked with our internet providers and had some discussions about how signals could be boosted off of water towers and such to try to extend that learning. So we're not wanting to wait until August when and if we might have another problem. We want to try to address that heads on now so we can get ahead of that. We're looking at asynchronous learning with supplementing that with some Google Meet classes so that we can have some time for teachers to schedule times to meet with students if we can have that kind of access within our community. We're also planning to have an optional virtual academy next year because we think that there are going to be families who aren't going to be fully comfortable returning their students to school, even if we are allowed to open up as we expect to in the fall. We're going to have a full off-site instruction model as well as a blended off-site instruction model. So if they want to come for athletics or ROTC or EAST or any of the other programs that they really need to be on site for, they'll have that capability as well. So this is a work in progress. I know you all are working on yours just as we are working on ours, but these are some of our ideas of how we can meet our students' needs in a blended learning environment.
And now we're going to pass things off to learn more about essential standards with Mandy Barrett in Gravette, Arkansas.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here. This has been an amazing process working across the state with all of these administrators and teacher teams. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to any of us as you dig into the playbook. All of our information is in there where you can reach out. And I would look forward to answering any questions. So this is actually a tool that is in the resource section of the playbook for you to use. So digging in, it was very important for the teachers to feel confident in knowing what was accomplished and what wasn't accomplished as we had to go into our distance learning format. So after we were finished here in Gravette, with our students distance learning, I pulled the teachers together in a Zoom, of course, and this tool was used to help guide those vertical conversations. I can't stress to you enough of how important that vertical piece is going to be to the process of getting back into school. So there are 3 categories that the teachers took time to insert their essential standards. What did they accomplish? What were they able to get to? And you can see in this first piece, the standards that were taught during the school year and that we feel confident that a large piece, the students got these pieces. In the middle column, you can see the standards that we taught, but we were ready to reassess. And so probably these were standards that would be reassessed after we came back from spring break so that we can make sure that more of our students mastered those standards. And then the last column are those standards that were attempted. Maybe we just got a chance to really introduce those, or we hit those during our distance learning time. But again, that face-to-face piece and those assessment pieces that are so vital in making sure that the students actually have attained that learning couldn't necessarily happen. Although we tried as best we could, we know that face-to-face piece is so important to that as well. So the teachers took the time, they inserted their essential standards into these 3 categories. The gem of this document that was created by Angie Fries, by the way, I want to be sure and shout that out, that the gem part of this is that next piece down where you can actually have some conversations around the what the essential was, the misconceptions that students may have, and then any type of resources that that particular grade level has used to teach that. Missy, could you scroll down just a little bit and I'll show them what that looks like. So here's where the essential standard is that's yet to be mastered. So that would be that middle column and the last column. And so those standards weren't mastered by a large majority of our students. So we know that those are going to need to be hit again by that next grade level piece. So what the teachers did was take those 2 columns, they put in any type of common learning mistakes or errors that they see as they're teaching, especially those conceptual or foundational standards to those students. They've put in resources that they use to teach it and any type of pre-assessment, because again, the assessment piece is going to be vital when we're talking about these standards that have yet to be officially learned by our students.
So what happens now, this is an example of actually my 5th grade math team who completed this work. So they're passing this on to the 6th grade team, because what the 6th grade team needs to be able to see very quickly is, okay, 5th grade didn't get to fractions. I can use equivalent fractions to add and subtract fractions, mixed numbers with unlike denominators. So what 6th grade is going to want to do with this information is try to find a way to embed some of these essential standards into their learning progression next school year. We all know time is not on the side of education, right? And now we feel like we're even further behind. But there are ways, if we truly can use those pre-assessment pieces, pull back those students that maybe have missed that. So you may not have to reteach it to an entire grade level, but you may have to do some small groups based on those pre-assessment pieces. There's resources that the teachers use, and there's those misconceptions that, okay, I'm a 6th grade teacher. I didn't realize that when doing word problems with division, what the divisor, when working with fraction, you can see all of their notes on there. And what I've been noticing is this is a working document, and it is shared in the Google Drive so that teachers, as they're going back through, oh yeah, I want to share that with 6th grade as well. So this is definitely a tool that can be very beneficial to your teams to have those vertical conversations, just to get that step into learning as we return. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you need some guidance or have some questions on that. We'll be so happy to help you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Robin Dawson over in Fort Smith.
Hello, State of Arkansas. I'm so proud to get to speak with you today and be a part of the State Guiding Coalition. I am the principal at Spradling Elementary School in Fort Smith, Arkansas, so I'm a very proud part of the administrative team for Fort Smith Public Schools. I also had the distinct pleasure of leading the state 3rd grade team when making the unit plans for that grade level. So let's talk about those unit plans. First of all, I want to tell you just a little bit of background about how they came about. The State Guiding Coalition did a great job of just trying to get teachers from across the state, all different districts, to become part of the state collaborative team. So the teachers on each team come from all different structures of districts. So there are very small districts, and then there are large districts. And within these teams, these districts that have come together and these people on these teams have an array of experience, both in curriculum. Some of them were specialists, some of them were just general classroom teachers. Some of them had extensive knowledge with the PLC process, while others not as much. And so coming together, bringing this great spectrum of minds together to create these unit plans was such an incredible opportunity for me to watch. It's wonderful. It's like having a school where you just walk in and out of classrooms, but you're getting to walk in and out of classrooms all over the state and just see the people practicing their craft and how they love their work. So that's how the team came about. Now the actual unit plans, as you heard Mandy talking, the team came together and decided to look at with the gap in learning of that last quarter while we were out, what is it that students in, say, 3rd grade this year, what were they missing? And so maybe what were they not exposed to for that last bit of learning? But then more importantly, with essential standards, what must they have to go on to 5th grade? What are the things we can say they can't live without? And so that team came together and they chose what they thought was most important. I had 4 or 5 schools represented on my team. And those professionals worked together just so quickly and amazingly. And they came up with the things that they thought that third grade could not do without to go to fourth grade. So when you're looking at our unit plans, you want to keep that in mind. The template that we chose for the playbook, we wanted to make the playbook consistent. So we did want to have one structure for the playbook. The State Guiding Coalition actually was given the opportunity to submit templates. We wanted the template to be very user-friendly. We didn't want it to be something that you had to like sit down and diagnose and go through. That would make, we didn't want anything hard for you. We wanted you to be able to take it and just run with it and use it no matter where you are on the spectrum of knowledge of the process. Now, we definitely, while the PLC process is a statewide initiative, and being from a school that is a state or a national PLC model school, I think that's important. But not every school in the state adheres, you know, they're just not there yet, or maybe they don't even implement those structures. So we want this playbook to be for anyone, no matter if you're in the process or you're not. We want you to take it and use it and feel good that your students will be not missing anything that you might not have thought of, because this was people coming together trying to put all the ideas out there and making sure that nothing was missed. So the template chosen, I'm going to give a big shout out to Greenwood, Arkansas, because they submitted a template, and that was the template that the State Guiding Coalition decided to go with to use. It was extremely good, and I'm really proud of the template that we used. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. So Missy, you talked about that. Oh, there it is. I didn't know if I was going to be able to share it. So, Missy, is it going to let me share my screen?
Probably.
It says I can't share my screen while another participant is sharing.
Yeah, so tell me what you need me to go to. And I'll
okay, no problem. So third grade, go to the third grade math. So we're going to pull up that template. Just that first one is fine. Yeah, great. Thank you. We're going to pull up this template, and I just want to kind of walk through it briefly. We're not going to walk through all the text in it, but I just want to kind of show you the structure of it and how it's set up. So you will see on the very first page there the essential standards that are taught in this unit. This is a unit for equivalent fractions. It's third grade. Now keep in mind that these are the third grade standards that the team thought that they could not live without going to fourth grade. You want to keep that in mind. So those are the standards that they chose. Then you'll see the learning progression is next. And remember, the templates are all the same for all the grades. So even though we're looking at third grade, it's applicable for the other grades. The learning progression is there. It shows you what that essential standard looks like in the grade below and the grade above. So you have that vertical alignment there. Then it actually they broke down and have given you the student-friendly learning targets. So these essentials now have been unpacked, and you have your learning targets. If you'll look right there on your screen, you'll see assessments and evidence. So you have not only pre-assessments like a screener that you can use before you start teaching this unit, but there's a screener key for you. And then there's your formative assessments right there to the right, which are going to be your CFAs, your common formative assessments. And the key is there for you. You have two formatives within this unit, and then the post-assessment, which is your summative, and the key. And those are all linked. So if you click on those, then you go right to the assessment and the key. The key academic vocabulary is noted for the instructional leader. So they already have that ready for them. We've put in the DOK questions so that they don't even have to come up with those. We've aligned that with the DOK level of the essential standard. Then the ongoing standards will be next, and that's going to be the standards that go with those essential standards but need to be carried out throughout the year at different stages. There's also an intervention plan here. That's an intensive plan. Tells the teacher what to do for students who on that pre-screener are going to need intervention early for tiers 1 and 2. But then there's the strategic plan and the good to go. So the enrichment plan. So you have all of the 4 essential questions answered here with your intervention plan. What are we going to do if they don't know it? What are we going to do if they do know it? And it's right there. Going on down, we have our instructional plans, not just the instructional plans. And look how a lot of the plans are hyperlinked. So even when it tells you to do something, it gives you a hyperlink that it's right there. I mean, it's at your fingertips. And then we also have listed the student misconceptions to the right of that, so that we tried to do that thinking in advance, so that if you have students that, as you're going through this, these are things that can help students who have common misconceptions within these instructional plans. So it gives you another thought process and where to go with that. Then additional resources. We've tried to pull in resources for you. They are all hyperlinked right there. We tried to use things that you don't have to pay for. They're free. They're accessible to anyone. So we didn't want to put in certain programs because districts, they pick and choose what programs that you want to pay for and use. So while teachers in Fort Smith Public Schools may have access to certain software, then maybe a school in another part of the state, they don't have that access. So we were really careful that when we put in our resources, we made them accessible to everyone. All right, and then we are so blessed because within the ADE has access, of course, to just the top people, and on our particular plans, on this playbook, we had a great array of special ed specialists who came in, they took the unit plans, and they developed accommodations for your special ed students according to these units. So I'm going to turn it over for a moment to Lisa Madden. Lisa Madden is a special ed with a special ed specialist. You have to say that 5 times fast. And she's going to talk to us about what they did on that end of it. So Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. As Robin said, I'm Lisa Madden, and I'm with the Prescott School District. After each one of the grade level teacher teams completed the unit plans, the special ed team went into each unit plan at the bottom and made a list of suggested accommodations. We did that so that it would be easily accessible on each unit plan for the classroom teachers. These accommodations are meant for your struggling learners and your students that have been identified with disabilities. I'd also like to mention that next week at the ADE Summit that the special ed team will be presenting along with each grade level team to discuss these accommodations. And as Robin said, the special ed team would like to give a big thank you to DESE for allowing us to be a part of this project. I would now like to pass it off to Trisha Kerr.
Hi, I'm Trisha Kerr, and I'm the ESOL Program Director with the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education. And we took the wonderful work that the Guiding Coalition and the collaborative teacher teams have done on the unit lesson plans and reached out and recruited a group of about 40 classroom teachers and ESOL educators who are taking each of the unit plans and making them aligned to our English language proficiency standards. This tool will be available next to each lesson plan or unit plan on the DESE website at the beginning of July. But the components that are within this is we started with looking at the essential standards that were already in the unit plan, and then identified the key English language proficiency standard that aligned with that lesson. So it is stated there, along with the language domain, that is most important to focus on for English learners related to that lesson. So this is one for kindergarten for the comprehension unit. And you can see the language domain is listening and reading. And then we brought over the student-friendly learning targets that are already identified on the unit plans, and they are just restated here. So it's easy for teachers to see, what were the targets for this unit. Then we went and took the English language proficiency indicators that go with that standard and put down what an English learner working at this level might be learning to do. So if that student is working at level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you can refer to their ELPA 21 scores to help inform that where they're working at, as well as just teacher observation. This gives you a set of tools that teachers can use as they're instructing a student. So if a student is at level 1, it gives you an idea of what to expect of the student and how a teacher can support that English learner that's functioning and working at a level 1. We also then at the bottom of the lesson have listed some suggested accommodations that specifically apply to English learners. As I said, there's a team that is working on this as we speak. They started June 2nd and they have a deadline of June 19th to have all of this completed. And then we'll do the final review and editing process, and these plans should be posted at the beginning of July alongside the unit plans for them to use. We have a team of 5 English learner specialists housed at different co-ops around the state, and we will be glad to support you as you are using this tool, as you support the English learners that are in your classroom and are excited to do this alongside you. And so I'm going to punt this back to Robin Dawson, and thank you for this time.
Thank you, Trish. I was going to to finish up this, the unit plans. When you were going in and looking at this for your district, please register and come to this summit next week. I think it's the 16th, 17th, and 18th, because every single grade level is presenting in that summit. And it'll be a little bit more intimate setting where you'll be able to, ask us questions. The team will be there that actually created the units, the teacher teams. You can ask them direct questions about their plans if you had anything that you wanted to know. And this year it's free. The ADE Summit is free. So there's no reason not to come and join us and be there and sign up for the sessions that you're interested in. And so thank you so much. Thank you, Missy. I am going to send this over to Susan Kassier. I hope I said that right.
Mandy and Josh.
Oh, Mandy and Josh. Right, Mandy and Josh. They're a great team.
Hey, everyone. My name is Josh Ray. I'm the principal at East Point Elementary in Greenwood. And I want to speak just a little bit about the assessment that is part of this playbook, but also some of the thought process that went behind the creation of the tools that we are hoping are a resource to you all across the state. Just reading through some of the questions as they've come in, I want to state from the beginning that our goal as teams was to try to think about the skills that might be universal across the state. But the reason that we've taken the approach of a professional learning community is that we know that there's no one size that fits all, and that every school is different, every child is different. So I would say that the first step for all of us as we try to figure out how to do what's right for our students next year is assessment. And so as you go through each of the units, just as Robin was describing earlier, you'll see assessments that were built by the teams that are meant to go alongside and to inform you as educators as to where your students are. Those assessments are embedded in those unit plans, and they're built by those grade level teams. There is a specific assessment tab that you'll find under the playbook, and that tab is more of our way of explaining the what and the how behind the assessments, making sure that we're all on the same page of about some of the terminology that we've used and about who's involved in those assessments. I did want to answer one quick question. Well, I had a second. I saw a couple of kindergarten teachers asking specifically about which thing to attend next week at the summit. And I had the fortune of getting to work with the kindergarten team. And so I wanted to tell you that the power in the sessions next week is that you get to hear from the genius behind this work. We were able to work with the teachers, but the teachers are the ones that have created these documents. They've created the assessments. They know their students. And it's been a fascinating process for us, me and Greenwood and our kindergarten teachers, getting to pair up with a small school across the state and to see how those skills align. So I would encourage you that whatever group, whatever session you come to, that you'll see the process behind it and the thought that the teachers went through in developing this. But you've seen Missy's pulled up on the screen. This is the assessment tab in our playbook. The first three most important pieces that you're going to see in each unit are the pre-assessment, the end of unit assessment, and the common formative assessments. And there's definitions within there. And I'd like to draw your attention to this table that Missy is scrolling down to. This was created by Dr. Mandy Barrett and is something that is meant to just make sure as you and your team is looking through these resources that when you see a pre-assessment, who that applies to, how that works for your teachers and your teams, where that works within the unit plan. And I think this is a really practical tool to help with that. So I'm gonna give it over to Mandy Dunlap and let her continue explaining this document.
Okay, good morning. My name is Mandy Dunlap and I'm principal at Eastside Elementary here in Greenbrier. And I'm going to talk to you just a little bit more about what is on the assessment. I had the pleasure to work with Dr. Josh Ray on the assessment piece, so that was lots of fun. And I tried in mine, if you'll go down just a little further, Miss Wally. So there is a graphic there, and that comes from the Taking Action book. And we just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on the actual cycle of when teachers would teach and assess. So at the top there, you're going to see that they're going to focus on unwrapping the essential standard. It moves into the core instruction involving the students in the learning targets. And then of course, giving that CFA, that formative assessment, and analyzing those results. And that could happen more than one time in a unit. And then of course, you're going to go through and give the summative assessment and also, you know, see what kids, analyzing the data is the important piece there, even at the end of the unit, to see which kids might need the interventions. And then of course the cycle will continue on the next essential standard. Below that, there is a classroom scenario, and that is more for the teachers to read and make sure that they understand. Analyzing that data is so crucial, and for teachers to be very open and honest about how their students did on certain assessments, and then to compare how they did to the other teachers in their grade level. So my classroom scenario was on a second grade, and so that will be crucial. If principals are on here, let your teacher teams read that and kind of make sure that that scenario is happening when they bring in the data to kind of see how students did. And from there, there's also, of course, involving the students in the work. So we as teachers, we don't want to kind of keep that data to ourselves. It's very important for self-efficacy, for our students to know where they are and where they need to be. So make sure to talk through with your teacher teams about how we get students involved in that process. That could be through data binders, a lot of different things you can do with kids, even in kindergarten. We have proved it at Eastside, as other schools in the state have, that kindergarten kids can also be able to, you know, see their results and make a goal of where they need to get. So assessment is something I love, so I will not take all day to talk about it, of course. At this point in time, we're gonna hand it over to Susan Kazar.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Kazar. I'm the superintendent of Bismarck School District, and I've had the pleasure of working with the professional development team. Our professional development, we decided early on when we started to meet that we wanted to base it on best practices. We also tried to keep it general enough so that every district could utilize these topics in the format that they prefer. You know, as we know right now, it's kind of a different time. If you're like our school district, we already had all of our professional development set up for the summer, and we were raring to go, and then, you know, life took a very unexpected turn, so we've kind of backed the bus up a little bit, and we've worked to make some changes in our professional development. So again, as we start to, you know, to look at what we need to do and what we need to provide for our teachers as we move forward, we have a variety of different resources that we've tried to include. We worked with our local resources. I want to say a big thank you to Dawson Cooperative, because they gave us permission to utilize some of the different needs assessments and so forth from them. Also Aisha, and then also local resources, things that we had through our district. And some of our links are also going to take you to the Solution Tree Global PD, which right now they have a free 30-day subscription to it. I'm not sure how much longer, if they'll keep that going, but definitely some great PD resources there as well. I do kind of want to draw your attention to a few of these. Again, I'm not going to click on all of them because I want you to be able to go through and kind of pick and choose what works for you. But as you start out with your district and looking at your PD needs, one of the biggest things that I want to encourage you to look at, and Bissy, if you can click on the Reentry Needs Assessment Survey, if you don't mind, right here. One of the things that I really want to encourage you to do is to, and it doesn't have to look like this, and this just has some different answers that were plugged in by someone who participated, but a re-entry survey for your staff. I know that a lot of things are going out across the state where we are surveying parents, and that is absolutely critical to the success of the return to school. But we also want to make sure that we are surveying our teachers and looking at some of the things that, as we start to go toward a blended learning model and the return to on-site instruction, what are some of those things that, you know, what did our teachers learn as a PLC school? And we've been a PLC school for probably about 5 or 6 years. So we kind of, you know, jumped on that process pretty early. So I think that really helped us as we had to quickly transition to the remote learning. But we also want to look at, you know, what can we do to support you? What can we do to guide you? What do we need to think about as we move forward with remote learning in the future? I'm very hopeful that we can start school in August and provide on-site and blended learning, and at some point we can get back to, although it will be, I'm sure, a new form of normal, but to some kind of normal schooling as we move forward. But no matter what, things are going to change, and so we need to make sure that we are assessing those needs for our teachers as we move forward. What kind of support, training, guidance, and, you know, what concerns did our teachers have for our students, especially our at-risk students? So, and the only way that we're going to be able to get that information is if we do a needs assessment for our teachers. So there are a few different links there that kind of provide some information on that. Let me see if you don't mind to go back to the, thank you, ma'am. Again, a lot of information here looking at, you know, collaborative teams, the PLC process. If you can kind of scroll down, I know a lot of this, we talked about special ed. We were so fortunate to have a SPED team that went onto all of the unit plans and made sure that those accommodations were put in. So I think that's awesome. Same thing for our ESOL students. Vertical planning and alignment. We, you know, with the PLC process, whether you are a school that does PLCs or not, I think we all realize that probably now more than ever, it is critical that schools allot time for teachers to plan together. It's just such a different ballgame than we've ever had before. And it's so important that our teachers not feel isolated, whether they're at home or whether they're on campus. We want to make sure that they are given that opportunity to work together and to plan together. So I highly encourage you to, utilize these resources and make sure that you are providing time for your teachers to plan together. If you can please click on the unit plan sample for me. I know that you've seen the samples that we used for our unit plans, and it's amazing, but I wanted to share with you, this is what we work with our Dawson specialists, what we're doing right now. And it's just kind of taking, and you can kind of see the color coding as we go throughout it, but what are the changes from the previous year? What must your students be able to do on day one of 2021? What must your students be able to do on the last day of the school year? And so we're just kind of looking at, what were we able to teach this year? What were we able to assess? And plug in, this is based off a 6th grade example, but just, kind of going along. And again, you can kind of see how it color codes to those items up there at the top. But this is something that we're looking at right now to kind of assess where we are and where we need to go as we move forward. So again, if you just kind of need a sample, something to follow through, we've got those unit plans that we have that we're, sending out for you to be able to utilize, and I hope that you will. But, from that point on, if you need something to kind of refer back to and to plan with, then, this is definitely here for you. Parent resources, that's also something, if you don't mind to go back, Missy. Parent resources, that's something that's also so important. And we have some additional resources that we're going to talk about with family and community engagement. But it's been a scary time for our kids, and it's been a scary time for our parents. And I know that as scary as it's already been, once we start to approach the return to school in August, it's going to be so stressful for some of our parents and for our teachers and for us. And so, we have some different things here, some different topics on managing stress and anxiety, and a parent's guide for meeting the challenge during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then also a couple of different ideas of some different things that you can do as we kind of get back into, parent power hours and our PD opportunities with the parents to kind of get them engaged in the process, and Friday cafes once a month to, pull in community members and families and do some live chats and Zooms and so forth to answer questions, have discussions, whatever might be on their mind, to get everybody in that process and that communication, and making sure that we're kind of having that two-way communication back and forth. We also made sure that we included some different suggested PD formats. Again, there are quite a few different topics here, but what's going to be best for your school district. Some districts are comfortable now just kind of sticking with the online professional development, and some are bringing back some teachers and following the social distancing and doing a little bit of professional development that way. So it's really kind of whatever works for you. And then suggested resources. If you don't mind to click on that last one that says list of resources from Aisha. And this just has a lot of great information in it. So there's way too many links to go through and click on, but it has tons of information about testing calendar and assessments and, federal and categorical accountability and teacher professional development, curriculum and instruction, and just, tons of useful information to link to Arkansas Ideas, which I'm pretty sure everybody kind of is familiar with that now. But again, there's just tons of information there that can be utilized with your topics and your planning for professional development. We are happy to do whatever we can to help you with this. And if you would like assistance, on the website, there should be contact information for all of us that were on this team. And we are happy to help you to flesh that out into a more solid professional development if you kind of know a direction that you would like to go in. So we're excited to try to get some normalcy, hopefully, back into the school year, and wish everyone a great school year. So I will now pass this on. I think I'm actually going to go back.
before you turn it over, before we get off professional development and the school year and the support that we need for next year and get to the guide for learning, I'm going to turn it back to Julie Wallace for just a second, and then we'll come back to Susan Joe.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Missy. At this time, we're gonna give Dr. Long, Jacob Long, up in beautiful Mountain Home, Arkansas, an opportunity to share some important information around blended learning.
Yeah. So I really, first of all, the work that this group has done around this playbook is just absolutely incredible. And so I wasn't at all involved in any of the development, but what's been extremely interesting is through our planning and our preparation, and then getting the playbook. It's been incredible to see how the alignment between our initial work and the playbook has been. And so it's definitely validating for us that some of our work is aligned to what you guys have been doing. But our blended learning approach has really developed from an expansion of our FlexPath program. And so we already had a FlexPath program that was a program that was utilized for through 1240 waivers and such for students and parents that wanted that that home-based learning opportunity. So through our blending learning approach and how we tackle this particular issue, we're essentially approaching it from a fact of every student is going to be a FlexPath student, and every teacher is going to be a FlexPath teacher. And so we're going to be asking each one of our teachers to maintain both, maintain a digital classroom. That platform is certainly going to be, is still up for debate, based on offline and online options. But we've got a couple things that we're looking at very closely and hoping to get that nailed down by next week. From that point, our action plan, you can see through the document that Missy has shared here, our document exists of 6 different actions. It's really, this work has allowed us the opportunity to tighten up our instructional plan for delivery. And I'll tell you, your guys' playbook has been instrumental for us to comb through our essential standards and make sure that our learning is in check, both horizontally and vertically. And so I have no doubt that our educators in Mountain Home are going to be much more prepared because of the necessity for all of our educators to be able to be prepared to pivot from both on-site delivery and off-site instruction. And so really, our work from this summer and the majority of our CARES funds is being spent on essential standards work with our teachers, as well as blended learning and digital instruction support. And so we're just pouring all of our resources into it. I feel like that there's several different ways in which we can approach the blended learning. But if we do not hold every teacher and every teacher accountable for developing this digital classroom, I feel like we're almost doing a disservice to them in developing them and honing in on that skill. So that's the approach that Mountain Home's taking, basically taking our FlexPath program and developing it into a K-12 blended learning environment in which we can pivot from face-to-face to off-site instruction at any point in time.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Long. Now we're going to turn things over to Dwayne Clayton at Little Rock Mills High School in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Well, good afternoon, and I am Dwayne Clayton at Mills University Studies High School in Little Rock, and my sentiments are very similar to Dr. Long and Julie mentioned earlier, trying to be flexible so that we can meet the needs of our students. So we have been in a somewhat of a blended learning format the last 2 years. And what's been key for us in our master schedule is having that opportunity for those teachers and the tutors in our blended learning format to be mentors to the students to ensure that they're getting their needs met with the interventions. And so for us, as this plan is more fluid, our district has several high schools. We have 4 high schools, 4 middle schools. And so this may look different for each campus, but at the same time, we're going to make sure that we allow that face-to-face option as well as the blended option for families to choose from. And we're still in the collaboration stages to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students. To answer that question of the PLC, what do we do if they do not learn it? And so for our teachers who have been in this blended learning format, they've been very successful with getting that one-on-one with students that they're going to need to ensure that their needs are met.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton. We are now going to pass things off to Susan Job with a Guide for Life.
She's going to get us back on track. We apologize for jumping back and forth there just a second, but I think we're back on track now. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm so proud that of the work that the state is doing through the Playbook, but also in recognizing the importance of meeting the needs of the whole child and social emotional learning. And we know that all learning is social and emotional. And so if our vision is to lead the nation in student-focused education, we cannot do that if we are not focusing on meeting those social emotional needs. And so I had the privilege of working with Karen Williamson and Joan Kincannon of the Fort Smith School District in developing some social emotional learning supports and lessons. We wanted the themes to be consistent K-12, even though the lessons obviously are going to look different. But we wanted those to be consistent K-12 because school districts are set up differently. But if we're all speaking the same language and working on the same skills, we thought that that would be good. Also, we really saw the importance of focusing as we re-enter the school year, whatever that looks like for your district, on focusing on building relationships, on developing those routines and resiliency, supporting emotional resiliency in our students and in our teachers. You can see at the top there, there is a guide from Castle that is just leveraging the power of SEL as you prepare to reopen and renew your school community. A lot of our teachers, and we're going to talk about trauma-informed practices here in just a moment, but access has been huge. Lack of access or equity in access has been a huge issue for our students, but it's also been that way for many of our teachers. And so we have teachers that have truly missed and those connections and interacting with their students in person every day, but we also am worrying about meeting the needs of our students. And so we probably have a lot of educators that are really suffering from maybe even compassion fatigue. And so we've put some toolkits there that I hope will be a valuable resource for you and for your schools. Lots of access to resources on teacher burnout, emotional resilience, and teacher self-care. We know that we have got to take care of our teachers and equip them and empower them and allow them to take care of themselves and to take care of each other, because they cannot pour from an empty bucket. And so in order for them to meet the needs of their students, they've got to be taking care of themselves and taking care of each other. So we really have taken some time on the front end to provide some resources for teacher self-care. And then Missy, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down to the actual lessons, and you can maybe just open up that 3-5 template. All of these lessons is 4 weeks worth of lessons that are designed to be plug and play. They can stand alone, or teachers could take those and embed or integrate them into other curriculum that they're already teaching. The learning targets are aligned with the learning targets in the Guide for Life. And then we also have that academic and emotional vocabulary that we want the students to be getting a strong command of. And if you'll just keep scrolling down, you'll see we tried to stay within the same template, but obviously some of these things are going to look different. We left the interventions where you could kind of customize those to your students' needs. And then you'll see that everything that we have used is just like the other units. We tried to hyperlink everything so that it's all right there at your fingertips. And then if we could go back to the, just the regular page and talk a little bit about trauma-informed practices. And I do want to say that the themes that we thought would be important were self-management, regulating and managing your emotions and your behaviors, responsible decision-making, relationships, and empathy. So those 4 common themes and topics are K-12, what the lessons are about. The trauma-informed practices, we know that we're going to have to deal with students' needs. And so creating those predictable routines, building those relationships, empowering student agency, all of those things are going to be just critical as we re-enter the school year. So we've tried to provide resources that will help you with those. I also wanted to take just a quick moment to let you know that we are offering PD on the individual components of the Guide for Life on Tuesdays, and they're 2-hour sessions, and our next session will be on June 23rd. And so your teachers, you can access those sessions through ESC Works through the Department of Ed. So with that, I'm going to pass to Kim Wright to talk a little bit about family and community engagement.
Thanks, Susan. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Wright. I'm the Director for Family and Community Engagement at the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education. And the purpose of our Family and Community Engagement section under the Playbook is to help schools, help families build capacity to support their students or their children with academics and social emotional, really everything, like the whole child concept. And so our team has spent a lot of time listening to families and stakeholders across Arkansas to hear what were their biggest fears and concerns from the last several months moving forward to the upcoming school year. And so our page, if we can go to that page, reflects the topics that were their biggest fears. At the top, you're going to see a section from the first section is from the IRIS Center, some resources there. And the IRIS Center is supported from the U.S. Department of Education out of Vanderbilt University. And it's an amazing site with modules and resources, more than you could probably ever read in a year. So please go there and you can just type in your search engine, the IRIS Center, and find those. But the ones that were there about reading and math, what should my child be learning, having a disability, how can I support social emotional, all of those were the top topics that we heard from stakeholders. So I encourage you to look at those. They're very family friendly, as well as has plenty of little practical activities that they can do. The next section are some parent support guides. We heard over and over about parents that had multiple children and multiple grade levels. Like, how do I, be able to do all of these things for all of my kids? So we created grade band parent guides, K4, 5, 8, and 9, 12, that encompass literacy, math, science, and social studies ideas. And these are things that they may come across in everyday interactions, like from watching the news and having things to discuss. So it's not anything that they have to have specific books for or anything like that. Those are just everyday daily interactions that they can continue the learning with. And then on down below were the social emotional learning resources for parents. The first two, the life skills for younger children and older children, those snapshots, those are from a place called Overcoming Obstacles, and they're a nonprofit education publisher. And those are wonderful resources, and all of these things that I've said so far are available in English and Spanish. And then that third one, Parent Guide to Resilience, that one is an amazing set of videos and whether you can read or have videos about resiliency on all those different little bulleted topics there. So that's a wonderful site too. And then that last section, resources for parents, families, and caregivers, that COVID-19 support, it has tons of resources as well for parents for coping with isolation, just some really good educational websites that they could get their kids on this summer moving forward to continue the learning. So I would encourage you to dig into these, learn about what these are, and these would be great things, as Susan mentioned earlier, about those parent power hours or those Friday cafes or Facebook live sessions. These are great resources that you can use to build parent, family, and just stakeholder capacity with. And before we leave here, I would be remiss if I didn't show you guys over to the far right of this page, there is a link that says related links, and it will take you to the parent tab of our DESE website. And that is always there and houses lots of information, videos, and supports. You can see that first button that says framework and toolkit. That's where our family and community engagement essentials and the toolkit that supports those essentials are. And that engagement in action, that third button, which is a stakeholder process for two-way communication between your families and your community members and your schools. So we encourage you, if you don't already have a tight process, that's a wonderful process to get you started. And we encourage you to use that and to also make sure that your families are aware of this page as well. So take all this information, use it to help build your family and community engagement capacity with your families. And from here, I'm going to send this to Lori Griffin.
Good afternoon now. I'm Lori Griffin, and I serve as the principal of, in Fort Smith at Ballman Elementary School. And I'm just so proud of Arkansas and the sense of urgency that they've had for this work and our kids. Even through a pandemic, they're helping us all push to the next level. And I just think we're definitely blessed to be in Arkansas right now. The professional learning communities section was written for the purpose of helping schools to reflect on where they are in the PLC process on their journey and give support for the next steps of implementation. It begins with a fantastic article written by Brian Butler titled "It's Not a Meeting." This is to support the firm foundation that we're working to establish here in Arkansas. He states, the PLC process, it's our culture, our way of being, it's who we are every day, it's why we get up every morning, and it's not a meeting. So the next step section focuses on the 3 big ideas and the 4 critical questions of the PLC process that guides everything that we do. And in this section, we wanted to provide an easy to maneuver section that's quickly accessible to reflect on where you are in your journey. You can say, yes, we've done that, or no, our guiding coalition needs to help lead us through that next step. There are continuums linked on the post-it notes section, as well as laying the foundation post-it notes on the playbook to help teams self-monitor where they are in these steps. And as was mentioned earlier, this work is a process of planning, doing, checking, acting, and then repeating that over and over. So even schools who are in full implementation with our blended virtual learning that we're preparing for next year, it would be beneficial for them to read through the next steps also, just to monitor, have we truly prepared for this blended learning? Does our mission, vision, collective commitments as well support the distance learning that we're all going to be working on? Do all of our unit plans include strategies for distance learning? How are we going to ensure to continue to provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention support? So we are never finished with this work. It's always a continuous process. And towards the end of this section is a celebration piece, because celebration, I believe, is the biggest component of the PLC process. We have to have a celebration mindset and remember to celebrate the large and small wins every single day. We can't let down on that. The celebration piece fuels the excitement that drives the work and encourages everyone to keep pushing to the next level. There are many resources on this site. Remember, the most valuable learning comes from collaborating with others. So feel free to reach out to any of us on this committee, and we would love to learn with you together. There are many global PD resources on this site, and as mentioned earlier, you can get a free trial for 30 days. So you could run that through your team members and have it for a while. So just reach out to us and we will be more than happy to help you. So now I'll turn it over to Judy Denmer.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy Denmer. I'm the District Math Specialist at Camden Fairview School District. And I'm going to share some information about the additional resources and templates that we have on the ADE DESE site. Missy, if you don't mind, can you pull us to that site so they can see where that is? It's going to be under unit plans. And when you scroll to the bottom of the unit plans, you'll see additional resources there. Under that, we have 3 sections, and one of those is the pre-planning resources. So in that folder, we have blank templates and some tools to guide your work using those templates so that you can continue the work that we've started here. We have a standards inventory that Mandy shared with you earlier. We have the blank playbook unit plan template, and Robin shared that with you a little bit ago, and that's the one that came from Greenwood. And we have some really great guidance on how to use that. I don't know, maybe someone can share. I don't know who put the guidance in there, the one that has all the red writing on it. But that was extremely helpful to our team when we were building our unit to go through and just read those little hints. And it took us step by step through it. So that would be really great for your team to use. We also have the plan, do, check model that you can see on the screen there. It's the last one. Yes, thank you. So it's important to note that this is a cycle for what we do before and during a unit. And you can see that information on the sides there. Under plan, that includes the vertical communication that we have before the instruction of the unit, and then diagnosing what students need during the instruction of the unit. And then in the do phase, that's where we are planning the unit and monitoring and adjusting during the unit. And then we have the check phase, and that's where we use data to ensure that our students are learning what we wanted them to learn. And then we cycle back and we use that data to plan the next part. We also have, when you're under the unit plans, this was the pre-planning folder. We also have an ELA resources and templates folder. And in there you'll find an example rubric, some helpful videos from Global PD. And then there's also a folder embedded there, yes. And it has phonics resources for K4. And then we also have a math resources and templates folder. And in there you'll find charts that are used in different units, assessment template, problem types tables, links to additional math resources. And in both the ELA and math folders, we pulled anything that you would see in kindergarten through the high school content, the unit plans. You'll see those templates also in this folder so that your team can use those and duplicate some of that work to meet your specific district and student needs. One thing that is going to be in the math folder coming up soon, hopefully today, is a folder for AR Math Quest, because all of this work aligns directly with the work that has been going on with AR Math Quest. So we want to make sure that we're keeping those things in mind, those practices for students and practices for teachers. So we'll have some information there just to kind of keep you in the know on that. So at this point, I know that you have a lot of questions, so I'm going to pass to Sarah Stovall so that she can address how we're going to handle that.
Hello, thank you for spending your time with us this morning. I'm the proud principal at Morrilton Intermediate School in the South Conway County School District. I've tried to answer a lot of these questions, but if I wasn't able to answer them during this webinar, please know that I have captured your questions, and there will be a question and answer section added to the website. But one question, Missy, this will probably be for you, that I have gotten over and over. Everyone is excited about the summit, and a lot of the sessions are already full. So they're wanting to know, will the sessions be recorded?
Hold on, let me, I'm on mute. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not. Yes, these sessions will be recorded.
Okay.
But I do encourage you to still get on the wait list, because as people change, especially after this presentation, people are finding out maybe I need to go to the next grade level, so they may cancel their registration. So make sure that you get on that wait list.
That was the next big question. So if you are a 4th grade teacher, for example, you will sign up for the 3rd grade session. However, I've encouraged our teachers to sign up for both, just because if it's built around essential standards and we've had some of the best educators across the state, I want to steal from both grade levels. So that was the other question that was asked quite often. So you will sign up for the grade level below you. Another question that I believe has been answered is, how were the essential standards determined? And I believe we've answered that by now. Those were determined by the teachers. And I think it's important to point out that I had the pleasure of working with the 6th grade team. I worked with teachers from across the state. So these plans have been informed from teachers from across the state, not just one school and what they deemed as essential. So we worked with different teachers from different areas of the state in order to plan those. Another question that came up that I think is important, they want to know, will there be more units created specifically for the grades? And I think that answer is probably no, because this is to help get us started. But there was another question, would there be other subjects added, specifically CTE?
Yes, CTE is working on that right now, and they just got their template. So there will be CTE units added in the future.
Okay. And I believe that this is on the site, but Dr. Barrett, they love the template that you shared. Where can they find that?
That template is actually in the resources. So
okay,
if you go into that resource piece, that it's right in there. And again, you're welcome to always send me an email, and I will be happy to help.
I will say that our school used that same template, and it was incredible work for us to do. It really helped get us focused. We were a little lost at the beginning, and where do we go? And that template really helped focus our work and move us forward. Okay, I just had a comment come in from Josh. I want to say this because this question came up. The kindergarten session, someone asked me, well, I teach kindergarten, so where do I go? Kindergarten teachers should attend that kindergarten session. They have really tailored that for both kindergarten and 1st grade teachers. I believe that those were the main questions. Again, we will have a question. I have captured these. We will have a question and answer section for whatever I was not able to answer during this webinar. We will get those questions answered, so be sure to check back there.
Wait, I do have a correction because I misspoke. So I just got something. Will the AD Summit sessions be recorded? And I just got a text and no, they will not be recorded. But the majority of those will not be recorded.
Okay, so definitely get on the waiting list now. Okay.
And I do want to say an apology to Dr. Long, because when I transferred your document over, the format was lost. So I'm sorry about that. Their document looks really good when it comes through, but I just messed up the format.
Okay, I'm not sure who I was supposed to turn it over to, but I'm finished.
Kazar. Close this out.
Okay, well, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We also want to thank Missy Wally and Secretary Key and Dr. Pfeffer for all of their assistance. Again, this webinar is going to be recorded, so you will be able to view it later. It'll be under P for Playbook on the DESE website. And for everyone that has joined us today, I'm hoping that you have found either bits and pieces or everything here that appeals to you. Again, it's a resource, not a mandate for guidance. So hopefully you have found quite a few components that you think will be helpful for your school district. It was created by educators for educators. So I feel like it's definitely something that will be beneficial for all of us. And we do hope that you will join us at the summit. That is June 16th through 18th. It's free. It's all virtual, and we will have a lot of wonderful Playbook sessions there. So again, we thank everybody for joining us today, and we wish you a wonderful day. And thank you to all of our coalition members for presenting today. Thank you very much.
you.